It works. Start streaming. Hello everyone, I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney, and yes, there are dogs on screen. There are dogs on stream. Yes, the interlacing is terrible. I'm very sorry. I went to de-interlace it earlier this morning and it was going to take over an hour, and I started doing that only about an hour ago, which meant I would have no time to prepare. So you'll unfortunately have to deal with the interlacing problem if you want to see the dogs. How are you all? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Oh, I suppose that I would like to see your chat. That would be helpful. Where is chat? Where did I put the chat? There we go. Thank you. New chat. Good morning, new chat. Poor interlaced doggos. Haha. Dark Babylon, you are correct. This video camera is from somewhere around 2009, I think. So that's why there is interlacing. If I wanted to get a full 30 frames, I had to get a interlaced video camera. Oh, and it's kind of choppy for some reason. Maybe that's just because I've got it here on my monitor.
Research is done on that, by the way.
Okay, good. So how is everyone? Good evening from Australia. Good morning, everyone. Sunday fun day. You guys are awesome. This is the best community on the internet, I swear. You got a purty mouth, Leonard. You know, that's one of my favorite movies, and I hope you meant purty and not petty, because I have been accused of being petty once or twice, haven't we all? But I try to be better than that whenever I can. In 2017, it's time we ended the horrible practice of interlacing dogs. Nice. So what do we have for you today? Let me see if I can...
Oh look, we have Judge Forrest B in here.
Forrest B. Hello, Mr. French. Her name was Catherine Forrest, so...
Whoops.
Let's see, if I change scenes, yeah, that goes away. I have to set up all my scenes here if I want to keep the dogs on screen. So what do we have for you today? Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds versus Fortnite. They've had some sort of copyright dispute, or what the heck would it even be? If it's not copyright, it would be like business interference or something like that. So what would that even be? I don't even know. So we'll go over that. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, I'm wearing a hat. It says EFF on it. That stands for Electronic Frontier Foundation. They are a charitable organization that fights for your digital rights. They have been instrumental in several free speech or online rights type cases over the years. It's more than several that they've been involved with, but they've been absolutely instrumental in several major cases over the years. So they're a wonderful organization. I highly recommend that after you hear today's story, if you feel like donating to the EFF, that you go ahead and do that. I think it's even a tax-deductible charitable donation. Unlike your donations to me, but I'm working on that, and maybe either by the beginning of next year or sometime within the next year, we will also be a charitable organization on this end. But we'll see. I need to figure out how to work the finances so that I still get paid while not, taking too much from a charitable organization, right? So I don't want to be a jerk about it either way. So we're also going to talk about a little hidden gem of a dispute that I found on the internet. If you're a Redditor, if you're a compulsive, obsessive Redditor like I tend to be, and I'm really trying to recover, but it's addicting. then you may have seen the Wax Buddy patent dispute that made it to the front page before getting removed by pretty much everybody involved. Now, this is not an evil dispute, so I want to say right from the start here, I am not calling for any anger or hostility against anyone involved. So aside from the fact that it's involving a wax comb that's used for combing the wax on your surfboard, shaping the wax on your surfboard. Let's please first let's have a no brigading rule here. This is just a story that I think is funny, and I think has also been resolved to everyone's mutual dissatisfaction. I don't know. So, where should we start? Oh, and Brandon has one too. Brandon, welcome to the stream. I didn't introduce you yet.
Hello.
Go ahead and say hi. Brandon is my manager / assistant of the Discord, of the community, and he's also going to be being my on-stream live assistant and everything more and more here. So you have a story that someone brought up, right?
Yeah. Spotify is being sued by copyright infringement by Robert Gaudio. Sorry, I can't speak today. And we have a complaint and Spotify's response motion as well to go over. So.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, let me bring up Firefox here. And let me see if I can figure out how to bring the dogs back up, too. I'll put them, like, in the other corner. How does that sound? Does that make everybody happy? And how's the music? Is anybody's music too loud or anything like that? You just let me know. What was it? It was window capture, I think. Yep. There. There's some dogs in one corner and me in the other corner, so if you just get a little bit bored, you got at least a little bit something to look at. I'm sorry I can't make them huge, but, you know, we're here for this. And then I also thought we'd talk about this one. How about we start here? This was a very interesting indictment. And I think this indictment was actually back from a few months ago. Excuse me. And this is against one Michael Arnstein, not sure. So this person is being charged with some things, namely forging a judge's signature. Between on or about February 20th, 2014 and October 22nd, the Southern District of New York, Michael Arnstein willfully and knowingly forged the signature of a judge and other officer of any court, knowingly concurred in using such forged counterfeit signature and seal for the purposes of authenticating and any proceeding and document, and tendered into evidence any such proceeding and document with false counterfeit signature and document with etc., etc., etc. I'm not sure if this goes into the facts of the case, but this person had... Here we go. In furtherance of the conspiracy and to the effect of the illegal object thereof, the following acts among others were committed in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. On or about October 3rd, 2014, Michael Arnstein emailed an individual in the Southern District of New York and instructed that individual to create a counterfeit judicial order by digitally altering a genuine judicial order. On or about October 22nd, the defendant emailed a copy of the counterfeit judicial order to Google and requested that Google de-index URLs contained in the counterfeit order. So why would somebody do this? Overview of the forgery scheme. The defendant obtained a genuine judicial order from the U.S. District Court, Southern District of New York, used this judicial order to create counterfeit orders. In order to suppress negative information relating to his business, Arnstein subsequently provided these counterfeit orders to internet search engines, including Google, to request that the internet search engines remove from their search results websites that were identified as defamatory. Background. Michael Arnstein is the chief executive officer and owner of a company located in New York that principally sells sapphires and sapphire jewelry. On July 22nd, they filed a civil complaint in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York against civil defendants, a claim of defamation under New York law. The amended complaint sought damages, attorney's fees, and costs. The defendant appeared pro se, subsequently settled with the Arnstein Company. The defendants failed to appear, another defendant failed to appear, and a default judgment was entered. An order was issued to take down 54 URLs, essentially internet addresses. The order was signed by the judge, and then it appears that the Michael Arnstein email account emailed the judge at some point, or emailed a clerk, and asked for a new order to be issued or forged, or something in a existing order. One of his emails said, "No bullshit, if I could do it all over again, I would have found another court order injunction for removal of links, made changes in Photoshop to show the links that I wanted removed, and then sent to removals@google.com as a PDF, with the judge's signature put in. But with the new links put in, Google isn't checking this stuff, and that's the bottom line, because I spent $30,000 and nearly 2 fucking years to do what legit I could have done for about 6 hours of searching in and Photoshop for a guy for $200 all in one day." Wow. Jay Valentine, thank you for the $10. I appreciate it. Headed off to work, but seeing your stream makes the day better. So, aside from all of the details that are in this, because this goes on for some time here, yeah, he sent the counterfeit order to Google. I think you should take legal advice with a grain of salt, he says. I spent hundreds of K on lawyers to get a court order injunction to have things removed from Google and YouTube, only to Photoshop the documents for future use when new things popped up and Google Legal never double-checked my docs for validity. I could have saved 100K and 2 years of waiting damages if I just used Photoshop and a few hours of creative editing. Lawyers are often worse than the criminals. Says the criminal. Defendant sent an email to third parties where he said, "I have copies of real injunction orders when I was railroaded by the programmer, which work very well when I submit them with new bogus reviews." So I think this guy's biggest mistake, aside from committing the crime in the first place, this guy's biggest mistake is bragging about it. I mean, it's one thing to commit the crime and hope that you get away with it, but then it's another thing to brag about getting away with it. The hubris is just, wow.
People are complaining if the music is a little too loud.
I'll turn it down to 35%. There we go. So next story. What did everybody think of that one? Okay, so something happened to this guy then. Let me quick look up. Let me quick look up what happened to this guy.
Yeah, Brutus. $30,000.
He pled guilty.
$30,000 did magically become $100,000 because that's what tends to happen in these stories, right?
Yeah. So TechDirt has an article here. Let me bring this up. CEO pleads guilty. I swear I'm telling it to blow it up. There we go. It's just taking its time. No, that's back to normal. Wow. Sorry, guys. So, aside from going over pretty much everything that we... Okay, here we go. A DOJ report. This is much less copyright infringement. Here's an actual press release from the Southern District of New York. Businessman pleads guilty to conspiracy to forge a federal judge's signature. Michael Arnstein pled guilty today before U.S. District Judge Andrew Carter to 1 count of conspiracy to forge a judge's signature, scheduled to be sentenced on January 16th, 2018. So we don't have a punishment yet. We just have the story. So let me copy this into the agenda here, and we'll put this into the description, as well as this Tech Dirt article for people who want to read up on this. Because frankly, we need to move on to our next story. I'll go back to dogs. The classic fish size example. Yes. I once caught a fish this big!
Muzak mucho better.
Alright, sounds good. Alright, so what's the next story? Well, the big story, of course, is the PUBG and Fortnite dispute. This is kinda ridiculous, IMHO, but we'll look here at this Polygon article. Earlier this week, Epic Games announced the PUBG-inspired Battle Royale variant of Fortnite would be released for free. Of course, they didn't say it that way. We've had an ongoing relationship with Epic Games throughout PUBG's development, says PUBG. They are the creators of Unreal Engine 4, and we licensed that engine for the game. After listening to the growing feedback from our community and reviewing the gameplay for ourselves, we are concerned that Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known. Now I have a little bit of an issue with this. That doesn't say anything about actual copyright infringement, does it? That just says that we have 2 games that have a similar gameplay style. So, like, what is the real meat and potatoes of this? Any thoughts, Brandon? What have you heard? What if there's anything more to this? Because all I've heard is really that's basically the meat and potatoes of the dispute. Is that PUBG is upset that a Battle Royale style game is being made by the people who license their engine to them.
Yeah, so...
But doesn't sound like anything. What does that sound like?
So there was a response from the executive producer, if you want me to find that for you.
Fortnite?
No, of PUBG. Is that what you were just looking at?
Yeah, I thought that's what I was looking at. What I haven't been able to find is the actual press release. Every press... every piece of, or every major, not major, but every media article, whatever, says that there was a press release, but I could find 0 press releases anywhere on this issue. 0.
Yeah, it was mostly news stories. I did say the word press release. I apologize for that.
Not you, them. They're saying press release in their article, and a press release issued by Bluehole this morning suggests that the team is contemplating further action. I'll bring it up on stream.
Yeah, but
Right here.
basically what the PUBG executive producer said was he doesn't think that they're infringing on the copyright, but maybe they should have talked to us. And the reporter's like, so you think that they should be paying you to... And he's like, well, maybe they should. He was being really dodgy about it.
So AbB asks, isn't PUBG kind of derivative? No, and that may be a good place for me to explain that derivative works can only be... Well, okay, so derivative in, like, a layman's term, maybe you could say that, like, one's inspired by the other, but when we mean the legal term of is it a derivative work under copyright law, it is, in my opinion, and I'm gonna say that I feel like I'm pretty right about this, it is not a copyrighted, like it's not a copyright derivative work. You can copyright your art, you can copyright your performance, you can copyright your style. You cannot copyright like a generic game mode. 100v1 is not copyrightable. 100v1 on Air Angel in a East European style with their coloring and their artwork and the way that they've done their mechanics and everything, yes, I think you could make a derivative or copyright infringing work that infringes on PUBG, but I think it would have to go way further than just copying the 1v100 mechanic into an otherwise completely different game. PUBG is not a cartoony style like Fortnite is. I can tell you the controls for Fortnite and PUBG are completely different, as I find Fortnite's control system to be absolutely aggravating for some reason. I haven't figured that out yet, but I have to spend more time with Fortnite. I haven't even tried the new Battle Royale mode in Fortnite. Could the term Battle Royale be a trademark or copyright? Sure. We'd have to look into there was a movie, Battle Royale. We'd have to see whether someone owns a trademark or copyright on the term Battle Royale. Maybe Epic Games can't call it Battle Royale. Maybe they have to call it something else. That could be a real dispute. You could have a trademark dispute. But I really, really don't think you have a copyright dispute at all. And I'm pretty sure that without more, because we don't know more at this point, but without more, that you wouldn't have any sort of, like, business interference dispute or something. I'm assuming Epic Games is still providing full support for the Unreal 4 engine. I'm assuming they're not going to build proprietary features into the Unreal 4 engine that only Fortnite and only Epic Games have access to. I'm assuming they're not going to build proprietary features into the Unreal Engine that require Bluehole to pay an additional licensing fee to access. That stuff could maybe be seen as unfair trade practices or unfair business practices or unfair competition. I am not an expert in those areas of law, so we could look into that in greater detail. But look at it this way: you got League of Legends, you got Dota 2, you've got whatever Blizzard's one is, Heroes of the Storm. You've got Battle Crasher, or not Battle. There's a one that's copying like just one element of it. I have it in my Steam library, but I don't have it up, so I can't show you. Sorry, but there's another like really simple one that looks just like Dota 2 or Heroes of the Storm, but only copies like the player-on-player action instead of the laning and towering action. So
one of the complaints, actually, the executive producer made was that the Unreal Engine fell short of what PUBG needed. And so the dev team of PUBG was going to work with Epic Games to develop new features to the Unreal Engine that would improve PUBG. And now the executive producer says he's worried that those features that they're going to help work on are then going to be used for Fortnite and not necessarily for all Unreal games, including them.
I'm really confused as to why there would be all of this fear-mongering publicly ahead of time. He's concerned about things that haven't happened yet, and honestly, Epic Games' public behavior seems to be nothing short of admiring, both from a business perspective and from a talent perspective, admiring PUBG. They have come out with nothing short of praise for PUBG and its success, and it's really weird to see like this smaller game developer that has now become like the third largest game on the planet is scared that it's going to lose market share to Fortnite.
Yeah, and there's some confusion in the chat. So yes, Leonard is saying that you cannot copyright the idea of a circle that kills people as it shrinks. That is not a copyrightable idea. You
Correct.
can copyright the way that they implement it.
Yeah, absolutely. Could Fortnite implement a battle royale that looks and feels so much like PUBG that a jury would say it is substantially similar? Yes, it could. You have not reached that point yet. I mean, the art is different, the gameplay style is different. I'm assuming the controls are still the controls that I don't like, that are different from PUBG. You cannot copyright the concept, and you cannot protect the concept of a gameplay style. Doom can copy, Quake can copy Crap, I forgot the other one. Anyway, they can copy Wolfenstein, etc. You just can't use the same textures or use textures that are so substantially similar that a jury would, in a court of law, would say these two things look exactly the same. These two things are copies of one another, are copyright infringements of one another, and whoever came first and has the proper copyright is the winner. This is not that level of thing. Otherwise, League of Legends and Dota and Heroes of the Storm wouldn't exist without having to be licenses of whoever the original 3-lane arena battle
that
was.
That was Dota, which was Aeons of Strife and StarCraft, and then Dota as a mod to Warcraft.
Yeah, it was a mod, so then that person owns all of that? I don't think so. You'd never have the innovation, which is so core at the heart of copyright law.
So many of the big games.
Duke Nukem was in there.
So many of the games are mods to old games, and then they came out as like standalones, you know?
Yeah. Now, could StarCraft have said no mods and prevented that first mod from being a game? Yes, they probably had some kind of right to say we don't want to allow you to create that first mod, and we could have had a copyright dispute there. But that doesn't mean that anyone had ownership to the idea of the gameplay. It was ownership to doing it in StarCraft. That's it. Like, that's the most you have, is all the way back there. Well, how similar was Mobile Legends? Let's start with the fact that it's called Mobile Legends. That already gives me an idea that someone was trying to copy League of Legends. So what you need for copyright infringement is either, actual copying, or evidence of access to the copyrighted work and something substantially similar. So let me pull up Firefox again here. We'll do this after I do the Google search. Okay, so here's why. You'll see why. Can anyone tell me why Mobile Legends might have been substantially similar to League of Legends? Anyone at all? Anyone want to take a guess? Moving on. Okay, so let me just make this genuinely clear. This looks pretty much exactly like League of Legends. It's got the same kind of logo. It's got the same coloring, the same art style. Everything is pretty much exactly the same as League of Legends. So that's why there's really no dispute there. You'd have to say that PUBG and Fortnite Battle Royale were that level of substantially similar. Alright, so questions about that before we move on to our next story.
Sorry, I'm just fighting over my claim that Dota started as a StarCraft map.
Oh, I love this. No, I love this. This is great. That's how PUBG got started, yeah. Right? PUBG was a mod to Arma 2 or 3, and it had a gas cloud instead of a blue shield circle thing. And it played a little bit differently, and maybe even a little bit, was it more fast-paced, it looked like to me?
Yeah.
And then it was a mod for H1Z1?
They made a game mode for, I think it's actually Daisy. I think I was wrong about the H1Z1 originally.
Was it Daisy?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was a mod for one of the already mod games. Like, wasn't Daisy and H1Z1 already, like, a mod game? Like, it was... Anyway, so then, I mean, I'm not saying this has anything to do with the bearing of it. I'm just saying, like, from the history, the perspective of PUBG, they are themselves also created from taking inspiration from someone else's work and making their own work off of it. Wasn't it Pablo Picasso who said good artists imitate and great artists steal? And I'm not saying that that's right or legal, but the idea of using someone else's ideas and building upon them is core to innovation and inspiration and progress. Heck, even in the legal world, I have done somewhat groundbreaking things by looking at what other lawyers did, copying the parts of their work that I felt were most useful, incorporating it into my work, and then filing a new, in my case, motion to quash or motion to sever. Back when when copyright trolls were filing cases, and they still are doing this, against hundreds of defendants, or at least multiple defendants at one time. One $400 case could get you thousands of defendants' addresses and names, and then you would make demand letters against them, and then most of the time they would either drop the case or pursue only one defendant or something to show a judge that they were a legit copyright plaintiff. And all I had to do was take previous motions to quash, read up on how they worked, and file my own motion to quash, motion to sever, motion for a protective order, just adding the new stuff that I needed to create. That's exactly how copyright works. Now, you don't need copyright to do that as a lawyer, because we have a different standard for legal proceedings and things like that. But that is how copyright protection works, and that's why there are laws that say that you can, within certain rules, use copyright protected material, and it will be either a fair use or a protected use somehow, because you are allowed to innovate on that original copyright. And then, of course, copyrights escheat or expire into the public domain eventually, so that further innovation can be had. Okay, so any questions on the PUBG dispute? It's not that there isn't a whole lot more to say. It's that the more that there is to say is just the nitty-gritty details of whether it's substantially similar, and I don't find it to be so substantially similar that we should really look into the art of it. I mean, once again, let's pull this up and let's go to we'll just type in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and we'll type in Fortnite Battlegrounds and see what we get. I can't type. So what is this? Is this Fortnite Battlegrounds? So this looks like Fortnite Battlegrounds. I can tell because, without even looking at a title, I can tell because it looks cartoony. I can tell because it's got Fortnite's interface. The map is up here instead of down here. Same here, it looks very cartoony. The water looks cartoony. The plants look cartoony. You go over to something like PlayerUnknown's, and you can instantly tell the trees are different. The art style is different. It's very gritty and the colors are muted, more like something that's out of third world Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Here, the weapon looks realistic. The person has realistic clothes and skin and body parts and stuff. The walls are crumbling. Again, all very like old and gritty style. And you go back up here, and the person's body is much more cartoony. They don't have like skin details like that other thing does. Their outfit is more cartoony and less realistic. Like, this camo is shiny. Nobody's camo is shiny. It's cartoony. It's really obvious to me that they are not substantially similar. So I think where I would need to stop here, and we'll have to go into at some future video, is exactly what is the standard for substantially similar. Like, what does a judge say is the paragraphs after paragraphs of what substantially similar means? So, okay, next, how about the EFF leaving the W3C? We'll just go over their press release, because I don't know. They're a pretty good organization. I think they probably did a good job. I wonder who wrote this. Oh look, it's Cory Doctorow. He doesn't do any writing. An open letter to the W3C director. Dear Jeff, Tim, and colleagues. By the way, does anyone know what the W3C is? We should probably answer this question. Just so everybody knows, this is the World Wide Web Consortium.
All I know is I use their website to find CSS and HTML code very often.
So the World Wide Web Consortium is an international community where member organizations, full-time staff, and the public work together to develop web standards. Led by web inventor Tim Berners-Lee and CEO Jeffrey Jaffe, W3C's mission is to lead the web to its full potential. You should know this name, by the way. Tim Berners-Lee did help invent the World Wide Web in 1989. The internet did exist, but it existed as Gopher and Waze and other other information services that you would have to use separately to find what you needed. And the World Wide Web is, of course, the thing that kind of brought it all together and made an interface and standard for making public-facing pages, and everything has gone downhill from there, and now it's just I'll refrain from using profanities, but it's the storm that you see now. So, an open letter to the standards organization that is the W3C. The EFF was disappointed to learn in 2013 that the W3C had taken on a project of standardizing encrypted media extensions, an API whose sole function was to provide first-class role for DRMs within the web browser ecosystem. By doing so, the organization offered the use of its patent pool, its staff support, its moral authority to the idea that browsers can and should be designed to cede control over key aspects from users to remote parties. When it became clear following our formal objection that the W3C's largest corporate members and leadership were wedded to this project despite strong discontent from the W3C membership and staff, their most important partners and other supporters of the web, we proposed a compromise. We agreed to stand down regarding the EME standard, provided that the W3C extend its existing IPR policies to deter members from using DRM laws in connection with the EME, such as Section 1201 of the U.S. Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or the European national implementations of Article 6 of the EU CD, except in combinations with other causes of action. This covenant would allow the W3C's large corporate members to enforce their copyrights. Indeed, it kept intact every legal right to which entertainment companies, DRM vendors, and their business partners can otherwise lay claim. The compromise merely restricted their ability to use the W3C's DRM to shut down legitimate activities, like research and modifications that required circumvention of DRM. It would signal to the world that the W3C wanted to make a difference in how DRM was enforced, that it would use its authority to draw a line between the acceptability of DRM as an optional technology as opposed to an excuse to undermine legitimate research and innovation. More directly, such a covenant would have helped protect the key stakeholders, present and future, who depend on the openness of the web and who actively work to protect its safety and universality. It would offer some legal clarity to those who bypass DRM to engage in security research to find defects that would endanger billions of web users, or who automate the creation of enhanced accessible video for people with disabilities, or who archive the web for posterity. It would help protect new market entrants intent on creating competitive, innovative products unimagined by the vendors locking down web video. Despite the support of the W3C members from many sectors, the leadership of the W3C rejected this compromise. The W3C leadership countered with proposals like the chartering of a non-binding discussion group on the policy questions that was not scheduled to report in until long after the EME ship had sailed, that would have still left researchers, governments, archives, and security experts unprotected. The W3C is a body that ostensibly operates on consensus. Nonetheless, as the coalition in support of DRM compromise grew and grew, and the large corporate members continued to reject any meaningful compromise, the W3C leadership persisted in treating EME as a topic that could be decided by on one side of the debate. In essence, a core of EME proponents was able to impose its will on the consortium and over the wishes of a sizable group of objectors and every person who uses the World Wide Web. The director decided to personally override every single objection raised by the members, articulating several benefits that EME offered over the DRM that HTML5 had made impossible. So this goes on. Oh, okay, this will go on very long. We'll finish it. But those very benefits, such as improvements to accessibility and privacy, depend on the public being able to exercise rights they lose under DRM law, which meant that without the compromise the director was overriding, none of those benefits could be realized either. That rejection prompted the first appeal against the director in W3C history. In our campaigning on this issue, we have spoken to many members' representatives who privately confided their belief that the EME was a terrible idea. Generally, they use stronger language. Their sincere desire that their employer wasn't on the wrong side of the issue. This is surprising. You have to search long and hard to find an independent technologist who believes that DRM is possible, let alone a good idea. Yet, somewhere along the way, the business values of those outside the web got important enough, and the values of technologists who built it got disposable enough, that even the wise elders who make our standards voted for something they know to be a fool's errand. We believe they will regret that choice. Today, the W3C bequeaths a legally unauditable attack surface to browsers used by billions of people. They give media companies the power to sue or intimidate away those who might repurpose video for people with disabilities. They side against the archivists who are scrambling to preserve the public record of our era. The W3C process has been abused by companies that made their fortunes by upsetting the established order, and now, thanks to EME, they'll be able to ensure no one ever subjects them to the same innovative pressures. So we'll keep fighting to keep the free web, or the web, free and open. We'll keep suing the US government to overturn laws that make DRM so toxic, and we'll keep bringing that fight to the world's legislators that are being misled by the US trade representatives to instigate local equivalents to America's legal mistakes. We will renew our work to battle the media companies that fail to adapt video for accessibility purposes, even though the W3C squandered the perfect moment to exact a promise to protect those who are doing that work for them. We will defend those who are put in harm's way for blowing the whistle on defects in EME implementations. It is a tragedy that we will be doing that without our friends at the W3C, and without the world believing that the pioneers and creators of the web and with the world believing that the pioneers and creators of the web no longer care about these matters. Effective today, the EFF is resigning from the W3C. Thank you. Cory Doctorow, Advisory Committee Representative to the W3C to the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Well, that is sad. Holy shit. That is really, really sad. Makes me a little angry, actually. Quick recap, who are the W3C? So the W3C, as we went over before, is the World Wide Web consortium that sets the standards for the World Wide Web. It is led by the inventor of the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee. Okay? And the EFF is a digital rights organization that fights for your open and free digital rights. It's a leading non-profit organization defending civil liberties. Founded in 1990, it champions user privacy, free expression, innovation through impact litigation, policy analysis, grassroots activism, and technology development. I can even say the EFF and Mitch Stoltz have helped me in my cases make sure that I make the right decisions so that we get the right kind of law as best we can and whenever we can in copyright cases. They were involved in the very first BitTorrent cases in kind of a backroom advisory role, trying to help us figure out what the proper response was to some of the accusations that were being made, and this was all creating new law about when an IP address could be linked to a person and how. So it's extremely important that these fights are won in the favor of keeping things free and open, because some of you may not remember, but the World Wide Web has always been free and open, and what we are slowly losing is that freeness and openness, and who is getting that freeness and openness is these larger organizations. And when they abuse that power, it is basically an unchecked abuse. There's nothing that we can do if, say, Netflix uses a DRM plugin and that DRM plugin gives access to private information. We just had, and still are going through, the Equifax catastrophe. There's nothing short of a catastrophe. The Equifax catastrophe will be absolutely infamous in IT history as we go forward. This is the exact kind of catastrophe that we're trying to avoid by not letting third parties have access to our web browsers without us being able to see what they're doing. HTML5, for example, was made to make things more open, and then the W3C has turned around and supported these encrypted media extensions, which prevent these, as the EFF is saying, prevent these researchers and creators who are properly using copyright from having access at all to the material they need to do their jobs. This isn't a case of copyright infringement, this is a case of fair use, for example, and they're making fair use more difficult. They're making research more difficult. You won't be able to get access to these encrypted media extensions for research anymore. Equifarce is a good term for the situation. Yes. So questions about this one and what's going on here?
So we did have somebody that messaged me directly regarding the EME, who wanted to get that said, if that's all right.
Sure.
From Sneaky the Lost. He says, I apologize for contacting you directly, but I do have some information concerning the EME that is counterpoint, and a reason why it is being used, and why it's not quite as bad as some people making it out to be, including making it far less invasive to your computer, the DRM plugins, what the ClearKey protocol actually does, and the benefits of it actually has all around, including user experience. First off, EME is open source software. In fact, you can find the GitHub here. He sent a link. This means that it's very easy to determine exactly what it does, and many of the accusations of what it is exaggerated. You can see exactly what ClearKey does. I probably shouldn't have mentioned this until I had more information. I'm really sorry.
Okay, so he's talking about one encrypted media extension may be open source, and that's great.
Yeah.
What the W3C is doing is standardizing the EMEs and including DRM law, making it up to the copyright plaintiff whether or not they would want to allow research or whether they would want to allow legitimate activities that require the circumvention of the DRM. It's not that every EME is bad, or every DRM implementation is bad, or that every copyright plaintiff is bad. I do not want to be accused, or do not want to be guilty of doing the hyperbole thing in the opposite direction. I am not against all DRM. I'm not against all EMEs. And I'm not even necessarily saying that I'm siding with the EFF here, other than in principle. I would have to see for myself what the results of this are. The EFF is definitely known for taking a position on things, so I would want to still research it. I do trust them, but I also recognize their position. So, what I'm not saying is that all EMEs are bad, and I'm not saying that all DRM is bad. What I do think here is they're making an argument that you've got the beginning of a problem here that we won't be able to stop. This is the slippery slope argument, but the slippery slope argument is not always invalid. You just have to identify it as a slippery slope argument and make sure that you're not making an illegitimate slippery slope argument. And so let's take all the counterpoints to the slippery slope argument. But the slippery slope argument is that by giving the DRM and EME power over to the copyright plaintiff, bound by law under Section 1201 of the DMCA and Article 6 of the EUCD, by giving it to the copyright plaintiff, it now becomes solely the copyright plaintiff's decision whether to allow these other legitimate activities, such as safety of checking that the code is done properly and there aren't security flaws, creating enhanced accessible video for people with disabilities, archiving things. Now, I get that, maybe you don't want an archive of your video, but there's a way to do that without giving all of the power to the copyright plaintiff to decide whether even fair use archival is allowed. What this is overriding fair use rights, basically. A copyright plaintiff will be able to basically click one button and say, this video should never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, be allowed to be used. Except we know from the H3H3 case that you are allowed to use other people's video without their permission for critique and commentary and research and education, and scholarship, etc. So that's taking away a fair use. Now, okay, maybe fair use is just a defense to copyright infringement. Well, we have the Dancing Baby case. We have Lens v. Universal that says that fair use is not just a defense, it's a right. It's presented as a defense, but it is a right that you have. It is an affirmative right, not only a defense. If you get the ability to commit copyright infringement, then you can use it as a defense. No, you have the right to use the material, which means you have the right to access the material. So what this is doing is closing down that access. It's effectively closing what they see as a loophole and what we see as fair use. So that's why the EFF is so terribly, terribly concerned. Is that a good summary? That's a good summary. No, bypassing DRM for any reason is not. It's not for any reason. It's for a lot of reasons, but it's not for any reason. There are exceptions that are set forth in the law and by the Librarian of Congress, and now it might actually be the copyright register chief or whoever. I think there was some talk about that becoming a thing. I don't know if that ever made it. Yes, and Anonymous Dane brings up a good point. It's very hard to prevent someone from ripping an online video. These DRM tools are a fool's errand, only hurt the end user. Yes, and they contribute to the economy of DRM. So you're paying people to code DRM. You're creating a whole economy of creating people to code things, and it becomes an arms race. And if we found less arms racey things, it would be less expensive. And you see what happens when there's an arms race within an industry with itself. In America, we're having a terrible problem with insurance right now. This isn't even a political discussion at this point. Everybody's insurance is going up by hundreds of percentage points a year. Hundreds of dollars a year in some cases. The latest Congressional Budget Office report is that our health care for some people would go up by $16,000 a year. So this is what happens when you have an unregulated, unchecked market, and the insurance companies are in bed with the healthcare providers and create policies that only incentivize higher and higher costs. That's not exactly what's happening with DRM yet, but it's the same kind of thing. You've now got the governing body that sets the standards for the World Wide Web saying we're going to allow the strongest DRM that the World Wide Web has ever seen. And we're not going to make exceptions for these legitimate things that have legal exceptions carved out for them. So I have yet to see how the W3C will actually implement this, but let's just say that the EFF is so concerned that they broke off their relationship with the inventor of the World Wide Web. that's a bridge burned that wouldn't be burned unless this sort of self-immolation needed to be done, needed to get the attention of this. So I thank you for putting up with me for the last 20 minutes or so of going over this. So let's go on to something, let's end with something a little bit lighter. I think you may enjoy this dispute. Let's start with this image. This, my friends, is the Wax Buddy. And I again want to restate that I want to visit no hate upon the creators of the Wax Buddy. This was just a simple dispute that got very quickly resolved in a very dramatic way, and I think the drama of it was enough that we can all forgive Wax Buddy for any unintentional transgression. This is the Wax Buddy. It looks like a scraper. What the heck would a scraper called the Wax Buddy do? I don't know. Let's try and deduce, right? Let's put on our Sherlock Holmes hat, except I don't have my Sherlock Holmes hat right here with me. So it's a scraper. It looks like it's a plastic scraper. It has a straight edge, it has a curved edge, and it has a aggressively serrated edge. It then has a bottle opener at the other end, which like creates a hole you could use as a bottle opener or like as a hook, like as a hole to put on a hook or something. It seems to have some raised edges along its handle for it to be look like they'd be used for support so that it doesn't bend. And then it has lettering, looks like raised lettering. Not sure, that says Wax Buddy on it. And it says nothing else. This is important. It says nothing else. So then let's go over to this. Yes, this is used to, I did not know this at first, but this is actually used to shape wax. And at first I was like, oh, cool, like for making candles. No, it's used to shape wax on your surfboard. So what would you need to wax your surfboard for? Well, grip. For grip and for how it cuts through the water and how it grips your feet when you stand on it. Wax naturally repels water, so I'm assuming that means that when you stand on a waxy surfboard, your feet grip the surfboard a lot better than if you were standing on a wet, unwaxed surfboard. So then, enter Exhibit A. This is a 3D printed wax comb. It does not say Wax Buddy on it. But it does have a curved edge, it has a straight edge, it has an aggressively serrated edge. The handle portion, while not raised at the edge, is raised in total. And it has a bottle opener shaped opening, but the bottle opener shaped opening is not reinforced with metal. What do you think? Are these infringements of one another? And I kind of want you to make this decision now, because when you find out what happened, you may have been wrong. So, let me zoom into this, and we'll go through this very much together.
People seem to think that this is an advertisement.
This is not an advertisement. So what happened here was the person who created the 3D printed version posted on Reddit/surfing, the surfing subreddit, and got this response. It is flattering that you copied our wax comb and made it out of a 3D printer, but you can't sell it or give out the program because we have a patent on it, and it would be illegal. I started the company 8 years ago, and we are proud to sell it in 21 countries. It is a serious surfboard tool, and it works very well. The bottle opener also works well. Please remove this post because it is not cool to copy another person's idea without giving them credit. And the person who posted this responded and said, I respect other people's intellectual property. Was not aware of any patents covering this tool. Please reply with your patent number so I can verify your claim. Now I'm going to just go off. I'm going to take this off screen for just a second and read one of the responses. One of the responses was, I will not be providing a patent number, but I can tell you this: it is patented in 5 continents. Would be happy to discuss this through email. or you can call us and talk to our owner and inventor. Here's a website to take a look. You have completely copied our product, and we think that you're aware of this. And then they posted basically each other's public contact information, so that everybody knows who each other is. And that's one of the reasons I'm not posting it. So let's go back. So then, there comes the answer. Hiya. It's weird how your company keeps insisting this 3D tool is infringing a patent, but you don't want to provide a patent number. There is no mention of a patent on your website, and the tool is not marked with a patent number. Fortunately, I'm a patent lawyer, and I didn't have much trouble finding your boss's design patent. As you're probably aware, a design patent is a form of legal protection granted to the ornamental design of a functional item. Courts apply the ordinary observer test to determine infringement of a design patent. Again, a design patent is the only thing that's been granted. It is a form of legal protection granted to the ornamental design of a functional item. Under this test, the ordinary observer test, a patented design is compared to the accused design in the context of prior art. Prior art would be prior inventions, basically. So then this person goes on to study the first claimed design. The front side consists of a working portion, handle portion. Working portion has straight, curved, and serrated edges, words on it with their website. The handle portion is curved and raised with a hole proximate one end. The words in stylized font extend on the handle portion and the working portion. On the back side there is a recycling symbol and again the words with the website. Along an arched raised portion, the raised portion extends down the handle portion, etc. Then he turns to prior art, and although I don't have it, he shows several scraper references that I'm sort of circling here with my cursor. These pictures were pretty much identical drawings of various scrapers that had serrated edges and straight edges and curved edges, some of which even looked pretty similar to the exact design of this tool. And then he cites this company or this case, Odds On Products versus Just Toys. It also shows, he also went on to show a reference of a curved handle with an approximate hole on one end to show that that is not novel. So then he says, what is the protected portion then granted by your company's design? Hang on. There we go. So then what is the portion protected by your company's design patent? When the ordinary observer test is applied in the context of prior art, the stylized lettering on the front and on the back and the recycling symbol and the raised portion on the back are not found in prior art. Therefore, the 3D model does not incorporate any of these ornamental features in its design. Therefore, any claim of infringement by the 3D model on your company's design patent is meritless. But the mystery remains. Why all the secrecy about the patent number? Why not print patent number whatever on your product to recover damages based on a constructive notice under 35 USC 287? Well, I obtained the file history of the patent to try and crack the puzzle. It turns out that the patent application was filed pro se, without an attorney, by your boss. Regrettably, the application was a bit of a mess and was abandoned on August 13th, 2010, after failing to respond to the examiner's rejections. Almost 2 years later, on May 23, 2012, a lawyer filed a statement that the entire delay was unintentional and tried to correct the original deficiencies by filing new drawings with raised text and recycling with the recycling logo. The examiner once again rejected the application on July 25, 2012 because the text and recycling logo were shown flat in the original and the new drawings constituted new matter. The drawings were resubmitted with flat text and recycling logo on August 1st, 2012, and the application subsequently issued. Hooray! However, the manufactured tool has raised logo and letters under 35 USC 292 subsection A. Falsely marking the product with a patent would expose the company to a $500 fine for each individual product made. That must have been an awkward conversation with your lawyer. Congratulations, you have a patent, just don't mark the product with the patent or you might get sued. I know this sounds like all bad news, but this post has easily saved your company $50,000 in needless legal costs. One more bit of good news. I don't have a wax scraping business and I will voluntarily take down this post, and I can confirm that he did. I just ask that you make a $30,000 donation in the name of a charity in return. It's a great organization and much cheaper than all the legal expenses you just saved.
That's wonderful.
So this was promptly removed from Reddit several times over. It can still be found here or there, which is how I found it. I think it made it onto not best of, but rather quit your bullshit if you want to try and find it there to see what else people have posted. I hope that my that my attorney colleague who wrote this does not consider anything that I've just done to be not a fair use, and if there is, I hope that he would give me a chance to take this down before issuing a strike. So, but I thought that was an extremely entertaining story, very educational. It shows you how lawyers say "F you." I'm going to try and curse a little bit less after one of you sent a very well-worded complaint. I will be cursing. Please do not let your kids into the room if you don't expect an occasional F-bomb, but I will not go as far as I went 1 or 2 weeks ago when I really got worked up. Alex Jones levels of cursing, so I apologize. Okay, so I guess people have been calling for the dogs to be seen. Let me see if I can find a dog here. Is there a dog that would like to be to have a visit on stream? Huh? You're a very pretty dog. Would you like to come here? Would you like to come here for some pets? I'm not moving the camera to show you underneath my desk. The underneath of my desk is a wreck. Come here. Come here. I know. He's been there this whole time, by the way. So probably didn't start a whole new patent because... Oh, and yes, the audio will be out of sync. I apologize. Probably didn't start a new proceeding because it would have been a waste of time and money. They had already filed for the original patent, so they might as well finish that, but if they filed a new one, it would have easily been challenged under all of those rules. So the only patent they'd really be getting is on the lettering, and they really don't need that. Can you show your face? Can you come up? I know, big stretch. Come here. I know. I'll be gentle, I promise. Come here. Oh, you're still in the wrong direction, though, so we're gonna have to fix this. Rah. 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 Uncomfortable dog. Here we go. Uncomfortable dog. Stress yawn.
Oh.
Oh, but then he does his happy grunts. He was sleeping so nicely underneath my desk. That's what they tried to do, Keith. They tried to amend, and the examiner said no, they couldn't amend. They weren't allowed. Yes, he's a heavy pup. He's like 80 pounds. My boy. We could try and get Yilsa. Let me see if I can get Yilsa.
Hello, I'm Nico, and I'm your favorite lawyer dog.
Good boy. Ilsa. Ilsa, come. No idea where she is. Yeah, why would they move on with a design patent? So they already filed for it, and they probably had a consultation with their patent lawyer saying, you know, look, we can try to get something here, and then you can at least tell people you have some kind of patent, and at least that might be enough to deter people from making a similar tool and increase your market. So it was probably about trying to keep market share. And honestly, that's the reason why they would ask for this article or information to be taken down about 3D printing one, because why would they want to let you 3D print them if they can, keep it secret that you can do that? So I don't know how much the actual wax comb is. I'm assuming that that it's not that terribly expensive and that they're not going to suffer some huge loss because people can 3D print an inferior wax comb. And I'm going to say inferior because obviously more work has to be done to the 3D printed wax comb. It doesn't come out of the 3D printer ready to be used as a wax comb. It has to be sharpened, and the edges have to be basically sharpened and flattened. So I'm guessing that it's more of a novelty, and also I don't really see this as calling so much attention to this that, like, we're all going to go out and buy wax combs. It's for a few select surfers who use wax combs with, that's probably the people that are affected by this. The surfing population is probably, popular, but we're not talking about billions of people or even probably millions of people. We're talking about probably thousands to hundreds of thousands of wax buddies over the years, maybe at the most. I hope you can hear things. My meters are going on my end. Alright. Oh, Tactical Bra. Yes, your question. I have this one ready to go as well. So, Brandon, would you like to read Tactical Bra's question?
Yes. Tactical Bra asked yesterday in the Patrons channel, which you can access if you become a patron for us at any time and ask Leonard questions. She was wondering about the conflicts of conflicts of interest. I know that random people email you their situations all the time asking for your take on it. Is it therefore conceivable that you could get an email from Party A who is in a pat with Party... I am so sorry, man. Who is in a spat with Party B about a YouTube video or something? Then possible that Party B could email you. Okay. So I guess I'm wondering what your ethical obligations are. If someone is trying to hire you as a lawyer and then the other party is trying to hire you as well, are you allowed to use information freely given against the person? Because confidentiality would only really start once you were hired, right?
So there's a couple rules that govern duties to clients. I guess I'll start with the one about conflicts of interest. So this is the current client conflict of interest, and I would refer to this as the concurrent conflict of interest rule. A lawyer shall not represent a client if the representation involves a concurrent conflict of interest. If the representation of one client will be directly adverse to another client, if there is a significant risk that the representation of one or more clients will be materially limited by the responsibilities to the other client, then a concurrent conflict of interest exists, and you cannot represent a client. If there are clients who might have a conflict of interest, but it can be worked around. It can be worked around as long as it is not prohibited by law, as long as the lawyer reasonably believes that he can provide competent representation to both, as long as the claims are not against each other, and as long as each client gives informed consent, fully informed consent, confirmed in writing. So basically, I'm allowed to represent clients that have conflicts of interest if they're not adverse and they know about it and they give consent. And otherwise, if there's any sort of actual conflict of interest, I cannot represent two conflicting clients. But you were asking about prospective clients. Here we have another rule. A person who consults with a lawyer about the possibility of forming a lawyer-client relationship is a prospective client. Even when no lawyer-client relationship exists, a lawyer who has learned information from a prospective client shall not use or reveal that information. A lawyer that is subject to confidential information shall not represent a client with interests materially adverse to those of a prospective client in the same or a substantially related matter, if the lawyer received information from the prospective client that could be significantly harmful to the prospective client, except as provided in paragraph D. When the lawyer has received disqualifying information, representation is permissible if both the affected client and the prospective client were given informed consent, the lawyer who received the information took reasonable measures to avoid exposure to more disqualifying information than was reasonably necessary, and the disqualified lawyer is timely screened from any participation in the matter, has received no fee, and written notice is promptly given to the prospective client. So let's go through the Alex Maurer thing that you asked about. So Alex Maurer contacted me publicly and asked me to represent her. Let's see. Diane says, not a law student, not an American citizen, does not earn much money, but here you deserve this, and gives 125 PHP. I don't even know what a PHP currency is. Brandon, could you look that one up for me? So, when Alex Maurer tried to contact me, she may have been trying to use this rule to get me disqualified. However, I did not learn any confidential information in her attempt to contact me, and nor would I, if I saw her name, I would not continue reading. And although I respect that not everybody would believe that you would not continue reading, but that's one way that you can prevent that, is to immediately stop when you learn that you're dealing with conflicting information and hand it off to somebody who's not in that lawyer-client relationship. Also, the prospective client has to be a person who consults with a lawyer, not just a person who contacts a lawyer. It has to be a person who consults. So it's a little bit higher of a standard than just sending an email to an attorney that contains information here. The Philippine peso. Thank you very much for the Philippine pesos. Very interesting things happening in the Philippines with Duarte right now, or Duterte, or whatever his name is, and I hope everybody gets through that safely, regardless of political persuasion or any message there. Sounds like things could be a little bit difficult over there right now.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Okay, so go ahead. Anyone with any questions or tactical, if you have any follow-up. Did I answer your question? So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. It's been a great Sunday morning show. Let me just check my text messages here and make sure there's nothing I need to bring up on stream while I'm looking for your questions. Brandon, do you have any questions from people?
I do, but I'm very concerned I'm going to mess them up. I'm having a bad morning.
So yeah, read over them first before you read them on stream. Cool. It looks like I'm going to a 3-gun competition on October 20th and 21st. Very happy. Just got a confirmation email that I got a squad to go with.
Alright. I do have some questions.
Go for it.
Is Cat asks, there's recently been issues with streamers having their custom emotes stolen by other Twitch streamers, mainly new affiliates. What would you recommend to prevent something like this happening?
Oh, that's a tough one. So let's say that you created your own custom emote. Either you went into an animation program and created it, or you hired somebody on Fiverr to create a work for hire. It is your copyrighted property, and you are allowed to issue takedown notices for that. That's that's really that. It sounds like it's something small, but it is copying. It's just copyright infringement, just like everything else. So if they're copying your emotes, you can probably start by telling them they're not allowed to do that and asking them to stop. And if you really have to, you can go as far as a takedown notice or even a copyright suit. That's a new one. I mean, you'd want to really think about that one, but you could sue somebody over using your emotes if you felt like there had been damage. You'd have to be able to prove actual damages, or you would literally have to register the copyright on your emotes. So, and they have to have basically directly copied your emote. They can't make something that is similar. They'd have to make something that is substantially similar or directly copy your emote. So, the damages, well, Dustin, that's a hyperbolic, that is what the law says, that the damages could be up to, but that's just the maximum damages for the worst kinds of infringement. All right, Brandon, next question.
Next question comes from Sean. Does fair use cover background music playing while live streaming, i.e. playing music from a radio station or Amazon while doing woodworking quietly and is not the focus of the stream?
No, you'd have to be transforming the music in some way. You're not just... The fair use is fair use of the material. The transformation is transformation of the material. So no, you can't use background music to further add to your production value. You would want to contact a service like I use, Epidemic Sound or something, and properly license that for that. It's often not terribly expensive. I think I pay $15 a month and I can use unlimited music on my YouTube channel and Twitch channel. Now it's not mainstream music. It's not Billy Joel and Elton John and Bruce Springsteen, or Beyonce or whatever. It's more independent music. But no, the short answer is that no, you cannot use it as solely as background music. The criticism or commentary or fair use would have to be about, so you'd basically have to be transforming the music, and the music would have to be part of it. Just using it as background music would not be a fair use. Why was the Lentz case different? The Lentz case was about the baby dancing to the music. You're not making woodworking. You're not woodworking to the music. You're not creating woodworking about the music. You're not commenting on the music. The Lentz case was different because it was fair use of the music. This would be more like if you go to a bar and they have the radio on in the background. They have to pay a small license fee to play the music of the radio in the background. It's a commercial establishment, it's not a personal use in your home, that sort of thing. So it is closer to the line. You're definitely on the right track, that it is not that far from a fair use, but it is itself does not sound like an automatic fair use. Next question.
Johan asks, do modded maps have copyright protection in regards to, like, RTS games that have map modders? Also, if one of the original creators of Dota went to create League of Legends, is that copyright infringement?
Yes. So what was the first question?
Do modded maps have copyright protection?
Modded maps, yes. You have copyright protection in whatever you added. Your creativity is always copyright protected. However, since you're modding their copyright, they also have copyrights in what you're doing. So if it's not a fully transformative fair use, then you both have copyrights to the work, which means they can stop you from using it, and which means you can stop them from using your work. So if they then tried to incorporate your mods into their work and claim copyright ownership of your modded stuff, they could not do that. They could claim copyright ownership of their material in your work, and they could have your work taken down, but they could not further exploit your copyrighted extras that you put in. They could do like a PUBG Fortnite thing and make their own version of it. That's perfectly allowable. They just can't use your additions in their copyrighted work without your permission. Likewise, you can't use their copyrighted work in yours without their permission. So that's why you should follow their mod policy if they have one. Next question.
Question from Tao is a follow-up on the background music. What if you are recording and have no control over background noise containing copyrighted material? For example, you couldn't create without including that IP, which when it is also removed from the purpose of the creation.
I'm a little confused. Is Tao referring to if I'm recording, like let's say I'm doing a live newscast from the street and someone parks their car nearby and it has music blasting? Right. Is that a fair use of that music? Yeah, that's a fair use of that music because you're making really almost no use of that music. That's different than me opening up my iPod, hooking it up to speakers, pressing play, and then going and doing a broadcast with that music in the background. Do you see the difference? One I had control over, and I did on purpose. Another one somebody else did in the background incidentally.
I have another example that's kind of a middle area. So you go to a fair and they're playing music and you're doing a recording of yourself at the fair, enjoying the rides, enjoying the concessions. Is that a fair use of that music?
Yes, that's a fair use of that music. You're not, again, really making the use of the music per se, as you're making a video about you at the fair. And so it's a fair use in the sense that it's not using 100% of the copyrighted work. It's not presenting the copyrighted work as its primary thing. It's not trying to capitalize on the copyrighted work. It's not usurping the market for the copyrighted work. And it's transforming it in the sense that you're adding your experience at the fair. Now, what would be different would be if you went to the fair and you brought a camera and a tripod, and you set up in front of the dancing ladies and men, the dance company, and you recorded their dance performance. And then you posted it on the internet for $2.99 a copy and said, guess what? You don't have to go see the dancing wonders. You can come see them here on my website. That's copyright infringement and not a fair use. Does that make more sense?
Yes. And that's actually the last question I have here.
All right, and that sounds like a great place to end the stream. It's been a great week. Well, I have to catch up. I did not produce any edited videos this week. We did finish the shoot for the Basics of Copyright, and I am editing that, and that's going to take a while because we got 5 hours of material. So there will be more edited videos this week. I do apologize for not getting any out this week. I was in a pretty crappy mood all week, and when I'm in a really crappy mood, it's very hard for me to put my face on camera and be like, hey guys, I'm gonna pretend to be happy for you and pretend to be having a good time. So sometimes I just don't. I'm sorry about that. But I appreciate all of your support and your patience with me still. Some of these videos, or some of these topics will be produced into further videos, or I might try editing these, sort of like the Young Turks do. They edit their live streams into then segments that get posted so that people can see the individual news stories. So I'll work on that. What we do have coming up this week is a pretty big update, probably Tuesday, in the Emotes versus Alex Mauer case. I hesitate to go into any speculation on my strategy because I don't want to help anyone with what's due tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Whether something's filed tomorrow or not, we will have a response of some kind on Tuesday, so you can look for that too as well. Two as well. Not only two, but also as well. And I should just add an also in there. So there you go. Yes.
I know I closed questions up, but this is actually a really good question. Could I ask this last one?
Go for it.
Dustin or Kotaku, he asks, the Fallout 4 EULA claims that all modded content is automatically their property and modders retain no rights. Is this enforceable? The license text reads, all customized game materials created by you are exclusively owned by the licensor, Bethesda, and or its licensors, and you hereby transfer, assign, and convey to licensor all right, title, and interest in and to the custom...
Yeah. I would say for the time being, until someone goes to court and challenges that, you should behave as if that's true. Is it challengeable in court? Yes, and I don't just mean that on like the technically, yeah, you can go to court, duh. I mean, I think that that could be unconscionable or could be some kind of overreach, but the other argument, the counter argument to that, is that you were on notice. You could have read the agreement, which you then agreed to, which you clicked on a checkbox or someplace that said, I have read to and agreed to this agreement. You could have read it and seen that that's what the policy was. You could have searched for the mod policy and found out, and that that's effectively notice, and that you have now contracted away your rights. And a lot of courts are very, very hesitant to limit your ability to contract away your rights. Only in the most egregious cases, the most unconscionable cases, will they grant you a nullification of that clause of the contract. So I would say yes, it probably is enforceable, and I'm going to guess that if they are going to enforce it, they have more resources than you anyway, so you should know what you're getting into. All right. I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to thank my Patreon supporters for financially supporting me as well. The $5 plus supporters are scrolling on my wall behind me. And we have some special supporters, some sponsors at the $50 plus level for September. Joshua Meinsicker, John Steele, John Cripps, Nate Beck, Lydia Collinson, and Weston Loney have all contributed at the $50 level. Yes, New Sensei has also contributed to the for the $500 level for the Basics of Copyright for Content Creators YouTube video. Thank you very much, New Sensei. I am editing that. We have, like I said, 4 or 5 hours of material to go through, so hopefully that will be out this week. And then, was there anything else? If you would like to see more videos of mine, please visit my channel, and also please feel free to also sponsor on my Patreon, even for $1 or $2. It adds up and it really helps out, and it helps me have the space that I need to create, the space and resources that I need to create more videos for you. So thank you all very much for joining me. I'm Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. I'll make the dog video big here for a moment as I get ready to stop the stream. Richard, check back on Tuesday. We'll have an update for you on Tuesday on the Emotes. Definitely hit the like button, show some love. Thank you very much, everyone. Love